Hi, my name is Loriana Jones, and for my psychology project, I created an oral history interview with my mom about major historical events she lived through and how they affected her psychologically. I also didn't just want to focus on what happened during these events, but what happened after and how people felt on a personal level.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm Loriana's mom, and I agreed to get interviewed about historical events.
Where were you when you first heard about 9/11?
So I was in bed and I had the news on, and I thought it was just a really awful, movie or something, or a new video that I hadn't seen before, until I realized that it was actually the news and that it was on multiple stations.
What do you remember feeling that day?
Well, I was terrified. I actually went into labor with Ty, her brother, when it happened, because I was literally so scared. It literally scared me into labor. And I just remember being afraid to go outside. Every time I saw a plane, I was wondering if something awful was going to happen. Just wondering what the world was going to be like for my kids, feeling sorry for the people that were, being ostracized because, a group of people decided to, run the planes into the Twin Towers. It was just a really awful and very frightening time. Nothing felt safe anymore.
This relates to psychology because intense emotions can strengthen long-term memory. High emotional arousal during traumatic events like 9/11 often caused people to remember where they were and how they felt very clearly. It also increased stress and fear, which affected people's sense of safety. What emotions did you feel when Barack Obama was elected president?
It was actually really refreshing. I clearly am an Obama supporter. I believed in him. I believed in the changes. I still to this day, him and Michelle Obama are my absolute favorite, presidential couple. But, it was wonderful. We celebrated.
People around you react to the election?
I mean, it was pretty celebratory all around me because we were all Obama supporters. And, again, I was with, Loriana's dad. When the election happened, we had a little election party, watched the news the entire night, and then, celebrated, ran outside, screamed Obama, just hugged each other. We were just really excited.
This connects to social psychology and emotional processing, as for many people, Obama's election had created feelings of hope and collective identity. Shared emotional experiences like this can influence beliefs about society and the future. How did you cope emotionally during the pandemic?
Well, with the blessing of having the kids home, eventually when things started to reopen, going on trips, going to the ocean, being out in nature, just knowing that we were all safely wrapped up in our little home bubble and not being exposed to COVID, but just, trying to make life as normal as possible, going and visiting Disney, even though it was closed, just so we could go shopping, things that, and see Disney, it was the small things during that time that were really the big things.
What's the most stressful part of the COVID-19 pandemic for you?
Oh boy, the most stressful part, the entire thing. Finding out that 2 weeks did not really flatten the curve, when my classes in person for college got canceled and everything went online, when the kids had to stay home online, worrying about whether it was safe to bring groceries into the house. We had a newborn in the house at the time. My grandma passed away, unfortunately, during that time, not from COVID, but with the newborn, and the way the hospitals were, we had to get approval to go into the ICU to see her, and it was pretty frightening after I left, because how can you not say goodbye to your grandma? She was with me my entire life. Just trying to, I was able to say goodbye to her, and then just trying to come home and, keep the kids safe, keep myself safe, try to, not let them worry too much. It was just a really, really dark time, but, we eventually adjusted, but the hardest part was just the isolation and, worrying that everything was going to, kill one of us, or, that we were going to lose family members, or, just seeing the devastation around the world. I mean, I don't think, aside from 9/11, there's never been anything that was as difficult and terrifying, and I'm just glad it's over. The hardest part was just getting through it and making sure that we were all healthy, well, and mentally okay after our entire universe for everybody got ripped to shreds.
COVID-19 relates to psychology because long-term stress and uncertainty can affect mental health. Self-isolation during COVID had impacted the average person's mood, motivation, and anxiety levels. So as a result, coping strategies and resilience had played a major role in how people handled the pandemic. Through this interview, I learned that historical events don't just impact society as a whole, but also psychologically in lasting ways. Memory, emotion, stress, and coping all shape how these events are remembered and how people change afterwards. So in the end, this oral history interview with my mom helps me explain how psychology can be linked to historical events and how they can still affect how a person thinks before and afterwards. Thank you.